Hello everybody, it's Mythic. It's November 16th and it's a beautiful day for November here in Minnesota, so I decided to go to Fort Ridgely State Park, which is just south of Fairfax, Minnesota, along the Minnesota River. Fort Ridgely has so much history to it. I'll share that with you as I'm hiking around, but let's hit the trail. I'm going to start out on the Upper Prairie Trail, which is a part of the hiking club trail for this park. The prairie grasses are so beautiful when they've turned their golden color, and I parked near the horse day use area and the picnic shelter and private cemetery, and now I'm going to check out a scenic overlook. And this is the Minnesota River Valley. A little, well, pretty much completely past peak for fall color, but still beautiful with the golden prairie grasses and the view through the valley. It is 46 degrees and hardly no breeze at all, and a little bit overcast. So a lovely day, not too chilly, not too hot. And I actually just took off my fleece jacket because I was getting a little bit too warm. I thought I was going to be chillier, so I do have my winter jacket shell and a cap and mittens in my backpack, and so I'm prepared for cooler weather. I think I'm the only one here at the park, so I have the place almost all to myself and enjoying walking here through the prairie on the hiking club trail and just soaking up the beautiful dried prairie flowers. And I love wild native plants, and but they're harder to identify in the fall or the wintertime when they aren't blooming. So I'm trying to brush up on identifying my native wildflowers. Sometimes the Minnesota state parks are closed because they have a small number of hunters that they allow to come in and hunt deer within the park boundaries. So especially in the fall, I always make a point to go to the Minnesota State Parks website and look up the park that I am planning to go to and check in their announcements section just to make sure that the park is not closed for a hunt. So currently this park is not closed for a hunt, but I believe it will be in 2 weeks. Not 100% sure, but anyway, I made sure that it was available and open today. But that also makes me think that I'm not wearing the best colors for being out hiking around in the fall time. I probably should be wearing blaze orange or hot pink or something like that, and I realized I'm pretty much wearing colors that would completely blend in with the landscape with my light blue shirt and my olive green hiking pants. So next hike I will have to make sure to dress in a little brighter color palette. What a beautiful couple of oak trees there. I love the nubby texture of the oak bark and its craggly little branches, and it's just my favorite tree. Another scenic overlook. I'm a sucker for a scenic overlook. Can't pass them by. I decided to stop and have a little snack break here at the overlook, and current snack is an Awake chocolate with the peanut butter flavor, and these were a gift from my hiking partner Blue Magic. She got me turned on to them, and they just have a little bit of caffeine and mixed in with the chocolate, so a nice little pick-me-up here at the middle of the day. I mentioned that Fort Ridgely has a lot of history, and that is because this was the site of a frontier fort that was involved in a battle in the U.S. Dakota War in 1862. And they have a monument to the white settlers or military folks who died. You can see their names on this obelisk, I guess you would call it. But I would point out that there were also Dakota people that were injured and died as a part of this battle, and their names are not memorialized here, and I think that is a shame. November is National Native American Month, and so it is forefront on my mind this month, but in every month we should be thinking about the Native American people who lived on this land and still continue to live on this land, and be thinking about them and their part in history and their perspectives of what happened here. I think that the park and the state park and the Minnesota Historical Society are trying to do a good job of telling the story, but I think it's real easy to kind of skip over or forget the Dakota perspective. So that's been on my mind as I've been walking on the trail. Another historic aspect of Fort Ridgely Park is that in the 1930s, the Civilian Conservation Corps, or the CCC, built many beautiful stone and timber buildings for the park. And here I am up in the maintenance area, and they've made some beautiful stone buildings here that are still being used for park purposes, and I'll point some more out as I walk by them later. But just amazing the craftsmanship that these very hardworking folks exhibited, and what a testament that they are still standing and in good repair almost 100 years later. I am leaving the hiking club trail and taking another trail within the park called, I believe it's called the Fire Rock Trail, and I'm heading downhill. So I'm gonna lose a bunch of elevation here, and I just heard a gunshot, so I don't believe, like I said, that there's any hunting going on within the park, but in the private property next to the park, I believe someone's out hunting. Now I'm down in the valley of Fort Ridgely Creek, which eventually meets up with the Minnesota River, and I think I will get to cross it in a little while here. Sure enough, here's the low water crossing. It looks rock hoppable, but I'm gonna put away the camera so that I can use both my hands and poles to keep my balance. Success! I made it over with completely dry feet, and really only one wobbly rock. The rest of the rocks were nice and solid, so a pretty easy rock hop water crossing. Well, I have an explanation to why I heard the rifle shot a little while ago. Some hunters had shot a deer on private property outside the park, and the deer was wounded, but not so badly that it couldn't run away, and it ran and ran into the park, and the hunters tracked it, knew it was in the park, so they got in contact with the park ranger and went in with the park ranger to find the deer, and it was still living, but so with the park ranger's permission and direction, the hunters put the deer down. So I just saw the ranger, and then I saw the hunters and their deer. I am on the northern end of the park now. I'm doing a little loop, and I'm gaining a bit of elevation, so I'm a wee bit out of breath here. Maybe I will earn myself a Snickers in Blue Magic's ranking system. 500 feet equals 1 Snickers. 500 feet in elevation gain, I should say. There are several walk-in campsites up here that have a picnic table and a fireplace. There's a pit toilet with a trash can, and also a drinking water faucet up here at the hike-in campsites. A lot of nice amenities up here. Yet another scenic overlook. Well, I'm not sure if I did 500 feet in elevation gain or not, but I certainly did gain some elevation, so I am gonna treat myself to a Snickers and some water with some element electrolytes in it, because even though it's cooler out, I still am sweating a little and probably need some electrolytes. What a beautiful view over the river valley. I'm gonna stop and rest just a little while. Now I am on Airplane Hill Trail. Not the hiking club trail, but a very nice spot. There's also a paved biking trail here that you can either walk or bike on. As a water resources engineer, I'm always interested to see when they do erosion control projects in the park. I love to see it because without those erosion control projects, you can see that the ravine can get quite eroded. So almost looks like right where they stopped with the armoring, the rock armoring, the ravine is quite eroded down there. This is Fort Ridgely Creek that I rock hopped across earlier. I'm getting back on the hiking club trail. The surface of almost all the trails is either mown grass or nicely packed dirt with relatively few rocks or roots to trip over, so a very pleasant walking experience. They have a chalet that you can rent out for events and a sledding hill, because this used to be a golf course quite a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when they switched it over. The chalet used to be the golf course's clubhouse, and directly across the valley you can see the lookout point where I stopped and had my Snickers. So now we're on the other side of Fort Ridgely Creek. I left the hiking club trail again, and I'm headed towards the campground. And there's this beautiful timber and stone picnic shelter. A big fireplace and picnic tables, and another separate room where I imagine maybe this was a kitchen at one point. Ooh, this is interesting. Lights in this building are being left on to deter bats. They roost in the ceiling and leave their droppings on the floors and tables. We will turn the lights off when the bats have vacated the building. Thank you for your understanding. The car-accessible campground here has a modern restroom building. They've turned off the water for the season, but that would be a nice amenity if you were camping here in the summertime. And I am so intrigued and charmed by this little lending library that's made out of a trunk of a tree with a few books that you can borrow while you're here at the campground. And this is where people that do the hike-in camping would park and then cross over Fort Ridgely Creek. So this will be my third crossing of the creek today. A beautiful little creek. There's another CCC built building up there. And lots of options for trails in this area. I'm walking along Fort Ridgely Creek now and heading back up to the low water crossing spot where I rock hopped earlier today. So I'll rock hop back over when I get there. Similar to other state parks, the trail intersections here are labeled with letters, and if you have the park map that you can get either at the ranger station or you can get a PDF version on their website, then when you get to that intersection, you know exactly where you are on the map. That's pretty handy. I'm back at the low water crossing that I successfully crossed earlier today. A successful second crossing. Woohoo! I climbed out of the Fort Ridgely Creek Valley up onto the prairie again. There are the ruins of the fort buildings that you can walk around, and there are signs that tell you what was going on in each building to give you an idea of what life would have been like for folks that were living here at the fort. A large portion of the park is prairie, and they are actively managing and restoring it, and it looks like they must have done a prescribed burn here, which the prairie needs in order to thrive. It evolved to live, those plants and animals evolved to live with periodic prairie fires that help the seeds to germinate and for it to be a healthy prairie. So even in Minnesota we have burn zones, a little bit different than burn zones in the PCT. There's another CCC built picnic shelter here, also with a big fireplace and a room that I imagine was meant to act as a kitchen. Over here there is an amphitheater where you could have concerts or other events, I imagine. This is the wrap up for November 16th. It was a wonderful hike here at Fort Ridgely State Park. I really enjoyed it. So many nice spots. I would highly recommend anyone coming and checking this out, both for the hiking beauty but also for the historical significance. This is a very important spot in Minnesota history. Until next time, come along with me as I hike slow, take a lot of pictures, and eat a lot of snacks. Good night.